welcome to this session. I know we all had a fantastic evening last night and everyone's tired, but hey, we just keep working. I would now like to call on World Wizo Treasurer Atara Ilani to open this session. Atara.
Good morning, everyone, those who get up early. I would like to introduce Professor Manuel Trajtenberg, who will be speaking on the economic challenges facing Israel today. Professor Trajtenberg, please, I don't want to disturb you there, please. Do me a favor, I don't want to disturb you. Professor Trajtenberg is currently a member of the Knesset, on behalf of the Labour Party, and is most remembered for leading the Committee for Social and Economic Change, appointing by the government following the social protest of 2011 summer. Under his leadership, the committee issues a report which included recommendations on the cost of living, tax, social service, market competition, and applying compulsory education from age 3. Professor Trajtenberg has contributed widely to formulation of economic and social policy in Israel, including the design of fiscal rules, policies towards minorities, higher education, and advised various ministries during the years. It is just a small part of his I lost the word. Well, I'll say it in Hebrew, much easier. Accomplishment and activity in the economic, academic, and social arena over the years. I will not detail it all, but you can read his CP in your folder. I am proud to call Professor Trajtenberg.
Good morning to you all. I'm delighted to be here today and have the opportunity and indeed the honor to address you. Wizo is one of the few organizations that after almost a century of activity for the good of the Zionism and for the good of the State of Israel and for the Jewish people is still vibrant, is still relevant, is still doing extraordinary work. This is not something to be taken for granted. Many of the organizations that were founded at the beginning of the Renaissance of the Jewish people at the beginning of the 20th century, either disappear or turn into relics or are very controversial. And I don't want to mention the names, not to offend anybody. But Wizo is still there, and it's doing extraordinary work day by day here in Israel and in the diaspora. I cannot avoid to have a personal feeling for Wizo. My mother, Zichrona Libracha, was very, very active in Wizo back in Argentina, in Cordoba. And when they made Aliyah, my parents, she continued to be active here in Israel, in Wizo. And now, my granddaughter, that was born less than a year ago, attends a Wizo daycare center in Tel Aviv. And I always think to myself, if only my mother would be alive to see that, to see the continuity of generation by generation, Wizo is there. Now, in order for you, Wizo, to be able to celebrate in another 100 years the same accomplishments, there is one key factor that should be addressed, and that is to understand what are the challenges that Israel faces today and in the near future, and what should be the role of Wizo vis-à-vis those challenges. For an organization to play its role, always ask yourself the questions, not what I as an organization want to do, but what is the cause that I should serve in order to play that role. And so I think what's important for all of you, for us, that are recipients of what you do, is to, first of all, to put forward on the table the challenges. What are those challenges? And what are your strengths, your unique capabilities that may serve those challenges? So allow me to speak of that, and I will deviate from the theme that was announced. It was, the theme announced was the economic challenges. I think that economics cannot be detached from the wider context of society. So allow me to talk of the challenges, not just the economic challenges. Well, of course, when you talk about Israel, you cannot avoid but to refer to the threats, security, the Palestinians, etc. I'm not going to talk about that, although I may mention something about that near the end. You know enough about that, you are exposed to that. That's not what Wizo is about. But let me talk about the one challenge that I think permeates every aspect of society in Israel. And that is the fact that Israel is a fragmented society. It's made of many different groups. Divisions have risen and has been accentuated in the last decades. And so today, when I look at the at society in Israel, I don't see one society. I see a fabric that not always feels comfortable, one thread with the other thread. And that is the challenge. What's the challenge? We have managed to build a state, but we have not yet managed to build a nation for that state. There's a big difference between these two concepts. We fought hard to create physically the state, to secure it, to build the institutions. Yesterday we celebrated at the Knesset the 67th birthday of the Knesset and the 50th anniversary of the building of the Mishkan Knesset. And it was a great event. Yes, applause, not for me, for the Knesset, for the Knesset. And, I was there and lots of people came and lots of youngsters coming in buses from many schools, and they were in awe to see the Knesset and the various aspects of it. And so it was really, really a festival of democracy. We built that. But I ask myself, are the people inside the Knesset a nation? And I regret to say not yet. To forge a nation, we need to redefine and reinvent Zionism for the 21st century. That's what we need to do. And that's not trivial. That's a very difficult task. And in my conception, in my view, one of the key elements to do that, not the only one, one of the key elements is education. Education. Education should be the conduit to forge the common denominator of the nation of Israel for the 21st century. Now, regrettably, the educational system in Israel, rather than providing for a common ground, actually accentuates and emphasizes the divisions. And we have to be truthful with ourselves. You know, we congratulate ourselves for many accomplishments and so forth, but as I said, we have to be very candid about identifying the problems. The educational system in Israel is made of different sub-educational systems. You know, one for the religious people, another one completely different for the Haredim, another one for the Arabs, and another one for non-elsewhere classified, which is us, you know, the sort of secular Jewish people, okay? 4 different systems we have. They receive different budgets. They have different textbooks. This is something that most people don't know. Within the Jewish part, you know, there are different textbooks in everything. Even in math, there are different textbooks. I presume that the equations look different for religious people than for non-religious. Different textbooks. And of course, different languages. I don't know whether you're aware of that, but in the Arab educational system, the language is Arabic. Hebrew is the 3rd or the 4th language. Why the 3rd or the 4th? Because the first is Arabic, the second is English. Sorry, the first is written Arabic, spoken Arabic, 2 different, English and Hebrew. I was the head of the university system in Israel until I made this decision to enter politics. I didn't find the adjective where to call it a crazy, right, whatever decision. I made it. I don't regret it. But in any case, as a head of the university system in Israel, one of the main goals that I put forward, and I got funding and so forth, was to increase access for Arab people in the higher education system. I discovered very quickly that one of the main obstacles was the fact that they didn't know Hebrew well enough to go to the university. Our citizens, Israeli Arabs. That happens in high school, that happens in primary school and so forth. So that's kind of the picture of the educational system. It's not just that they don't promote a common denominator, they actually promote the divisions, the fragmentation. That cannot be. Now, if we go further than that, look at early child care, early age education. And I want now to spend a few minutes on that because this is a topic which is very close to my heart. Let me start with a general statement. After many years of research, now we understand pretty well that the key to the development of an individual is at that age. And when I say at that age, I mean from birth to age 6. That's the key. This is something you will have opportunity to clap afterwards. Thank you. When I say that that's the key, this is backed by longitudinal research that follow up kids from birth to actually the job market and what happened over all the trajectory given differences in daycare at early age. By the way, you know, I'm an economist by training, not by heart. By heart, I'm a Zionist. And actually, the guru of early age education is a Nobel Prize in economics called Jim Heckman, Jewish, from Chicago. And he has developed a lot of the methodology that allows us to say what I just say. But this is a side comment. Now, what happens is that there is an inverted pyramid in terms of investment in early education. It's the most important stage, but we invest the least. The state, the nation, the schools invest the least amount there, and the investment grows over time, whereas it should be the opposite. Not only that, but in Israel, from birth to age 3, the state of Israel, takes very little responsibility of what happens. Wizo takes a great responsibility, and I salute you for that. There are other organizations, Naamat, etc. But from the point of view of the state of Israel, the issue is not the development of the child. The issue is rather to provide working mothers of low economic status the opportunity to leave the child in a daycare center and go to work. I say it in very stark terms because really the concern of the Ministry of the Economy, not of Education, the Ministry of the Economy, who is in charge of the daycare centers, is their mandate is employment of women and not the development of children. And this is an anomaly that has to stop because the future of the country is there. We are making or unmaking it day by day. And so what I'm doing after, it was mentioned that I chaired the committee after the social protest, and if there is one good thing that came out of that, is the free and universal education for 3 and 4 years old. And that was a great accomplishment, by the way, not of the committee, certainly not of myself. It was the accomplishment of the social protest. Because if hundreds of thousands of young families would have not stepped out and go to the streets and protest, this would have not happened. So we should give credit where credit is due. And it's with the young generation of Israelis that decided to take their fate in their own hands, not just to, the Israeli favorite pastime is Friday evenings to complain. Right, and then, you complain, you eat challah, and then you go home happily. No longer. I mean, they decided to do something about it, and their doing that we reflected in the committee was actually the creation of these 3 and 4 years old. But that was just the first step. Just the first step. We need a revolution in daycare, in the child development. And let me try to give you a vision of the way I see it. Israel can turn into Goi LaGoim, into the light for the peoples in this field. I want Israel to be not just the startup nation, but the early age education nation. And why is that possible? It's not just a dream. Because there is a conjunction of factors here that are unique in the world. And let me mention them. First, we are the Western country with the highest fertility and birth rate. And that's, I say it proudly, because when young people want to have children, it's a sign of the vitality of our society. It's saying, I want for this to be my country, my future, an expanding future. Children are hope. And therefore, in spite of all our problems, if my daughters are having children as they are, God bless them. It's not just that they make me happy as a new grandfather, but they make this country, they give this country a future. And so we have the highest reproduction, fertility, birth rate in the Western world. And therefore, the pyramid in terms of age is a sound one. Second, we have a long history of taking care of children. Wizo, Namad, the kibbutzim, and so forth. There is a body of knowledge that has been developed over decades of how you do that. And there is a norm of doing that. And again, I cannot overemphasize the role that Wizo has played in that respect. So we have that. We have excellent academic research that can support expanding the development side of early age education. So we have all these elements. There is no other country, and I did some study on this, there is no other country that has that conjunction of factors. And so I'm putting on the table for you this challenge. Let's be the country, the most advanced country in the world in early age education. We can do it. And try to imagine Israel in 18, 20, 25 years from now, where the youngsters of that time, those that will go to the army and then out and so forth, will come out from a system that takes care of them, not just takes care of them, allows them to realize their potential by providing them the development path from birth and on. That's a vision that is doable. And I want to superimpose on that yet another vision. You know that we have a terrible crisis in terms of real estate, right? The price of housing in Israel skyrocketed and so forth. We all know that. At last, the government is taking steps. So now we are building, and we will be building, around 50,000 new dwellings per year, at least, if not more, okay? Now, imagine what will happen in 10 years. In 10 years, we'll have 500,000 new apartments, new dwellings. 500,000 is roughly what you need for 2 million people. We have 8 million. So 2 million will be living in new buildings, not just in new buildings, but in new neighborhoods, because they are being built on new land. This is a tremendous opportunity to do it right. And to do it right also in the sense of building the infrastructure, among other things, for early education, for daycare, etc., because you need to have the physical infrastructure. And I have a vision of that which time will not allow us to present here. But try to connect, try to look into the future, try to think how you, Wizo, can fit into that picture, okay? Now, this coming Sunday, just to let you know, a bill that I introduced will be coming to be discussed at the government, at the Knesset, for the establishment of a national council for Agil Arach, for early age. Now, this council will be the authority in charge of all the aspects of early age, including development, child development, education, health, tipot halav, etc., the welfare aspects, the aspects of, how do you call it in English? Child development problems, okay? And so forth. So the whole pack, it's an integrative council that will be in charge of all the aspects. One-stop shop for the child, for the parents, and it will take care also of the issue of parenting. Parenting is a big issue. My daughters, they don't know how to become good mothers. Why do they don't know? Because the Saftot, the grandmothers, are too busy. My wife, I think she addressed this forum more than once. She is currently the second in command at the Bank of Israel, the deputy governor of the Bank of Israel. And she's the important one in the family, of course, I'm just an MK. Now, she doesn't have time for being a grandmother and transmitting the knowledge, the tacit knowledge that you need to be in order for you to be a mother. This is a big gap. This is a big change. It's a huge generational change. We need to step in, we, the government, the organizations, and so forth, and understand that that knowledge doesn't come out of thin air. It has to be imparted. You need forums to do that, okay? You need to impart that knowledge to mothers that are themselves extremely busy. The mother of my granddaughter that is in Wizo, she's doing a PhD in physics, okay? She is too busy also. So, where is she going to learn to be a mother? And now I come to the second challenge that I want to put to you. And that is a universal challenge, but in Israel, again, we have an opportunity more than anywhere else. And that is the challenge as how to reconcile family with childbearing, etc., with two-career people that are symmetric, not the man, the father who is the provider, and then the mother that does something else, just to keep busy. That's the world of the mid-20th century, not the 21st century. In the 21st century, women equality is a truism and not something that happens in some families. In Israel, we have one of the highest rates of female labor force participation in the world if you take out women in the Arab sector. That we need to advance. It's one of the highest in the OECD. And it's one of the only ones, and this is the key issue, where labor force participation by women is not an either-or vis-à-vis having children. In Israel, women both have children, as I said before, and are in the labor force. And that's extraordinary. But that also presents huge challenges because, you see, they get squeezed into these two roles. And so the issue is, what can we do to make it not only feasible, but to make it as a norm that you can do both? And one of the answers to that is we need to reform the norms of the workplace. In Israel, we have a work week, which is the number of working hours, which is too long. It's one of the longest in the Western world. And the productivity, the labor productivity in most areas is low. So we need to pay attention to that. We need to pay attention to the fact that we need more flexibility in the way jobs are done to allow, because, in order to raise children, you need flexibility. Also, you need flexibility to allow for equal participation by men, by fathers. Because if it's very strict, then you cannot do it, okay? We need to take care of one of the plagues of our age, which is this. This is one of the plagues that afflict us, and it's really, the reason I say a plague, we just read in the Bible, in the Parashat HaShavua, about last Saturday, about the plagues, right? This is the 11th plague. Believe me that if it would have been the first, Pharaoh would have let the people go immediately. Why is it a plague? Because, among other things, because work never stops. It follows you home. You know, you're changing the diapers. You know, your boss calls you, okay? And they want an immediate answer. Cannot be. That's not the way to do it. This is not a better world. It's a worse world. These are challenges. Now, again, we can be pioneers in providing answers for that. Israel has some elements that are extraordinary. We have extraordinary creativity. You know, the high tech and so forth is one of the manifestations of that. But it's everywhere. You need creativity in this country because the good things happen not because of the government, but in spite of the government. So you need creativity, you know, to overcome that. We have an extraordinary amount of volunteers. People here volunteer as a matter of course. Look at what happens with our youngsters. Now, the Shinshinim, you know, the Shnat Sherut, the year of service, Shnat Sherut, before the army, has become a norm. And you say, what? You know, these youngsters are going to serve in the army 3 years, 2 years, even more, and they are nevertheless volunteering before the army for what they call a year of service. When they have 2, 3, 4 years of service afterwards, nobody compels them. They want to do it. It's really unbelievable. Okay, so you have that spirit of voluntarism, of contributing, and that's a sign of identification. You don't volunteer to something you don't identify with. Okay, and that's in spite of all the tsures, you know, that we have. So we have that. We have creativity. So if we can just, you know, mobilize that to provide answers, new answers, creative answers to these challenges that are universal. Imagine what we can be. And it can be done. That's what I'm telling you. And Wizo can play an extraordinary role in those realms. And let me give you a third one. Judaism in the 21st century, what is it? What is the Jewish identity of us as a people, as members of a Jewish state? What do we mean when we say that Israel has to be a Jewish and democratic state, right? That's the slogan. I hope it's more than a slogan. What do we mean? Do we mean the Rabbanut? I hope not, because the Rabbanut is a source of trouble for most Israeli citizens, not a source of pride. So what do we mean? That if you are not strictly religious, what do we mean by it? Not clear. We need to redefine it. Now, that's a big job. But there is one thing that concerns to women. If I have to single out one anomaly of Judaism as interpreted by the Orthodoxy, is the fact that women are second-class Jews. And that's something that cannot be, there is no justification for it whatsoever in terms of the Jewish tradition and the Jewish values. That's something you can be a perfectly observant Jew and have women enjoy the same status. It's not a matter of reform or conservative or secular. It's an anomaly that is intolerable in the 21st century. And, you know, it takes just a leap of imagination. I will never forget the extremely moving scene. Even when I'm about to tell it, I really, when Rachel Frenkel, the mother of one of the 3 youngsters that were assassinated a year and a half ago before the start of Tzukaitan, okay? When she, a strictly Orthodox religious woman, stood up and said Kaddish, okay? Which is not the norm according to Orthodoxy, okay? That was a defining moment. That was a defining moment. It's too bad that the defining moment has to be associated with such a terrible, tragic event. I want women to stand up, okay, and hold the Torah and read the Torah in front of everybody. I want women to be able to pray in the Kotel along everybody else. Now imagine if women were to lead, just that, nothing else, okay? Don't get messed up with kashrut and with all the other stuff. Just that, one change, equality in Judaism. That's it. I'm telling you that can transform the nature of our society. That can be a unifying factor. I said before, I started by saying that the big challenge is the fractionalization of society. It's very hard to find the key to change. That can be one of the keys to it. You are the most powerful women organization in the Jewish people. Go for it, big time. So, if I have to wrap up, because I want to open it to some questions, imagine the future. Imagine a future where we are leaders in early age education. Imagine a future we are leaders in reconciling work, 2 careers, family, parenting, etc. Imagine a world within Judaism, women will be equal. That's the Israel that I want to happen. It can happen, and you can be an extraordinarily important part of that. Thank you.
I would like to call on Helena Kellner, past president of Wizo Brazil, to give the vote of thanks.
Dear Professor Manuel Trajtenberg, I would like to thank you for the important explanation about Israel nowadays. It will greatly help to the work of all federations present here. Thank you very much. Toda rabá. Gostaria agora de agradecer ao senhor a honrosa presença que nos concedeu a Wizo Brasil. Years ago. Okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.